Let's start our first news with a major update surrounding Arman and Charles Oliveira. Their highly anticipated fight has been canceled following the tragic passing of Alan Nascimento, a longtime friend and training partner of Charles, who reportedly passed away at just 34 years old after suffering a heart attack in his sleep. Daniel Cormier explained that the matchup had been expected to happen in Los Angeles, and Arman had even told him in Abu Dhabi that he was preparing for the fight. There was no BMF title involved. The plan was simply for Arman and Charles to run it back in what could have been another incredible matchup. Arman's goal has been very clear. He wants to keep fighting, continue proving himself, and make himself undeniable when it comes to earning another title opportunity. But instead of Charles, Arman is now scheduled to face Mauricio Huffy at UFC 331. Cormier believes this is a very dangerous fight for Arman, but one that comes with less upside. Huffy is a talented and dangerous fighter, especially after his impressive victory at the White House. But he simply does not have the same name recognition as Charles Oliveira. That is what makes the situation so unfortunate. Fans were expecting to see Arman and Charles compete again after their first fight delivered plenty of action and became one of the most memorable matchups of Arman's career. Cormier also pointed out just how close Charles and his team are. With the tragic loss of their teammate and friend, it is understandable that fighting was no longer the priority. So while the Oliveira rematch is off for now, Arman still has a major opportunity ahead of him. Mauricio Huffy is a serious test, and there is plenty at stake. If Arman can get another impressive victory, he can continue building his case for a future title opportunity. And with the fight taking place in Los Angeles, Cormier believes fans can expect another exciting matchup. The city has consistently delivered memorable fights, and this one could be no different. Move on to another news, and this one involves Jorge Masvidal and his strong reaction to the upcoming matchup between Islam Makhachev and Ian Garry. Masvidal made it clear that he is firmly backing Islam in this fight, saying he hopes Islam can put Ian Garry to sleep. His comments came after Garry recently shared his opinion that women should run the world, something Masvidal clearly disagreed with. Speaking to Full Send MMA, Masvidal suggested that Garry has become increasingly unlikable because of the way he presents himself and the opinions he shares publicly. According to Masvidal, Garry understands that many fans were never going to support him based on his mentality, and he believes the Irish fighter may be leaning into that image even more. Masvidal also criticized Garry's comments about women, arguing that there is a difference between women having influence in society and someone telling other people how the world should be run. He believes Garry's opinions are deliberately creating strong emotional reactions, especially because they do not necessarily align with the views of many male MMA fans. And when it comes to the actual fight, Masvidal is clear about who he wants to see win. He is hoping Islam can use his world-class grappling to control Garry and eventually secure a submission victory. Of course, these comments are simply Masvidal's personal opinion, and the fight itself will ultimately be decided inside the Octagon. Garry has already built a reputation for being confident, outspoken, and willing to embrace the attention that comes with controversial opinions. Now, he faces one of the toughest challenges of his career against Islam. If Islam can impose his wrestling and grappling, Masvidal believes the fight could end with Garry being put to sleep on the mat. Move on to another news, and Ian Garry is already showing just how confident he is heading into his upcoming title fight against Islam Makhachev. Garry is set to challenge Islam for the UFC welterweight championship at UFC 320, and apparently he is so convinced that he will become champion that he already has an empty frame waiting at home for the belt. During a recent interview, Garry was asked how quickly he thinks about the fight after waking up in the morning. His answer showed just how much this title opportunity is consuming his mind. Instead of simply answering, Garry decided to demonstrate exactly what he meant. He explained that after waking up, going about his morning routine, and leaving the bathroom, he immediately looks at the empty frame waiting for the championship. The message was simple. He is counting down the days until he believes that frame will no longer be empty. Garry then pointed toward the countdown and said, "There were just 9 days until he becomes a world champion. That level of confidence is certainly not new for Garry. He has repeatedly spoken about his belief in his abilities, and now he has the biggest opportunity of his career directly in front of him. But Islam represents an enormous challenge. The reigning champion has established himself as one of the most complete fighters in the sport, combining elite wrestling, grappling, control, and increasingly dangerous striking. For Garry, the goal is clear. He wants to turn his confidence into reality and walk away with the UFC welterweight title. The empty frame at home is already waiting. Now, everything comes down to what happens inside the Octagon. If Garry can pull off the upset, that empty frame will finally have the championship belt it was prepared for, and his prediction will become reality. Move on to another news, because a potentially huge matchup is being discussed involving Ilia and Usman. Usman is coming off a victory over Archie Khan at PFL New York, where he successfully defended his PFL lightweight championship. Now, his manager, Ali Abdelaziz, has revealed that he would love to see Usman make the move to the UFC and immediately take on Ilia. That is an extremely ambitious target, considering the level of competition waiting for Usman in the UFC. Ali made it clear that he wants the biggest challenges possible. In his view, Usman has the skill set to compete with some of the best fighters in the world, and he believes there is one particular matchup that could truly test him. That fighter is Arman. According to Ali, Arman may be the only fighter he currently sees as a truly competitive opponent for Usman. But Ali was even more confident when discussing several other potential matchups. He believes Usman would have the tools to stop Dan Hooker, and he went as far as suggesting that the fight could end inside 2 rounds. Ali also spoke highly of Paddy Pimblett, saying he likes and respects him, but he still believes Usman would have a major advantage in that matchup. Then came the boldest predictions. Ali claimed that Usman could force Ilia to quit, using his wrestling, grappling, and overall pressure to overwhelm him. He also suggested that Charles Oliveira would struggle badly against Usman because simply trying to strike with him would be extremely difficult, while attempting to take him down could be just as dangerous. And then Ali turned his attention to Max Holloway. Despite expressing his respect and admiration for Max, he argued that the former champion's biggest weakness against Usman would be the grappling department. Ali believes Max has elite striking, but says he cannot match Usman's ability to combine striking with wrestling and grappling. That combination, according to Ali, is what makes Usman such a difficult matchup. He believes Usman can pressure opponents, mix his attacks, take them down, and control them in ways that pure strikers may struggle to deal with. Still, Ali keeps coming back to one name: Arman. In his eyes, Arman is the one fighter who could genuinely make things competitive against Usman. Whether any of these matchups actually happens remains to be seen, but the confidence from Usman's camp is clearly very high. Move on to another news, because Alex Pereira is facing major backlash following his latest comments about the controversial loss to Cyril Gane. In a recent interview with the Mac Life, Alex explained why he remains frustrated with referee Herb Dean for not penalizing Gane for what he believed were illegal strikes during their fight at the White House. However, Alex was careful to make one thing clear. He said he has no issue with Gane personally and understands that fighters are competing under intense adrenaline and emotion. In his view, mistakes can happen when both athletes are caught up in the moment. But Alex believes the responsibility falls on the referee to determine exactly what is legal and what is not. He explained that he felt some of the questionable strikes during the fight and suggested that perhaps he could have recovered better. At the same time, he pointed out that he also absorbed plenty of legal shots, making it difficult to separate the impact of the legal and illegal blows. According to Alex, that is precisely why the referee has to step in and make the correct calls. But his explanation has not been received positively by everyone. A large number of comments underneath the interview were critical of Alex, with some fans accusing him of making excuses for the loss. Some commenters argued that Alex should focus on his comeback rather than discussing Herb Dean's performance. Others claimed that the controversy was making the situation look even worse for him. One of the biggest criticisms was the belief that Alex was blaming the referee while not directing the same level of frustration toward gain. Other comments mocked Alex's appearance and performance, while some fans claimed that he had lost some of the aura that made him one of the most feared fighters in MMA. Those reactions were obviously harsh, but they showed just how quickly public opinion can change after a major defeat. Despite all the criticism, Alex has already made his next objective clear. He intends to stay at heavyweight. His mission is to continue competing in the division and eventually capture the heavyweight championship. So, rather than moving back down, Alex wants another opportunity to prove himself against the biggest fighters in the UFC. Whether fans agree with his explanation or not, the path forward is now clear. Alex wants to put the controversy behind him, return to the Octagon, and chase that heavyweight belt. For now, though, the backlash surrounding his comments continues to grow. Move on to another news, because Ali Abdelaziz has surprisingly praised Conor while launching a strong attack on Ian Garry. Despite years of public tension between Ali and Conor, Ali recently gave the former two-division UFC champion unexpected credit during an appearance on the Pound for Pound podcast with Kamaru Usman and Henry Cejudo. While discussing Ian Garry, Ali compared him to Conor, but in a very negative way. He described Garry as a copy of Conor and argued that, despite the similarities in their personalities and confidence, Garry has not shown the same level of fighting ability. Ali then made an important point about Conor. Regardless of their history, he admitted that Conor was once a bad dude inside the Octagon and described him as one of the greatest fighters of all time. Ali also praised Conor for consistently accepting major challenges and being willing to take difficult fights. That was a surprising change of tone considering the long-running feud between the two. Ali then turned his attention back to Garry and criticized his record, particularly the number of decisions on his resume. He questioned Garry's claims about finishing opponents and suggested that the Irish fighter has not yet demonstrated the finishing ability he talks about. Ali also compared Garry's approach with Islam Makhachev's, pointing out the difference in their finishing records and arguing that Islam has repeatedly shown an ability to end fights rather than simply relying on decisions. The conversation eventually shifted toward the contrasting personalities and lifestyles of Garry and Islam. Ali emphasized that the two fighters are completely different, both in their public views and in the way they approach their personal lives. Regardless of all the trash talk, Garry remains confident in himself and has previously said that he receives plenty of support and positive attention whenever he is out in public. Now, with his biggest challenge approaching, the pressure is only getting higher. Ali clearly believes Garry has plenty to prove, while his unexpected praise for Conor shows that even after years of rivalry, he can still acknowledge greatness when he sees it. Move on to another news, because Usman Nurmagomedov has received huge praise from coach Javier Mendez, who called him the most talented fighter he has ever worked with. Mendez explained that when he first traveled to Dagestan, Khabib told him about a young fighter in the family and predicted that he would become something special. That fighter was Usman. At the time, Mendez had already heard about Usman, but it was only after working with him that he truly understood what Khabib was talking about. When Mendez started training Usman, his reaction was immediate. He realized that this young fighter possessed something that was extremely difficult to teach. From a fighter's perspective, Mendez described Usman as the best fighter-athlete he has ever trained. However, he made an important distinction. When it comes purely to athletic ability, Mendez believes Herschel Walker deserves that recognition. Walker was an extraordinary athlete, but Mendez emphasized that being a great athlete and being a great fighter are two different things. And in terms of combining both qualities, Mendez believes Usman stands above everyone he has personally coached. The biggest reason is Usman's natural ability. Mendez said there are certain things Usman does that no coach could simply teach. Some of his movements, reactions, instincts, and abilities appear to come naturally. In fact, Mendez admitted that there are things Usman does that he could not teach, and that Usman developed some of those skills completely on his own. That is a remarkable compliment from a coach who has worked with elite fighters for years. It also helps explain why Usman has generated so much excitement around his future. His technical skill is one thing, but his natural instincts and ability to perform techniques that cannot easily be taught could make him an especially difficult opponent. According to Mendez, Usman is not simply a talented fighter. He is a fighter with qualities that are genuinely rare, and that natural talent could ultimately separate him from the rest of the competition.